It's a beautiful night for Smash Brothers, and we've got one of the game's most historic voices here to answer your questions. I'm Ian Barker, and this is the R Smash Brothers AMA. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the R Smash Brothers AMA, brought to you by The Daily Dot. I, of course, am your host, Ian Double John Barker, and with me is the unbelievably handsome host of Best of Three, Efren Salinas. Did I get that right?
You got it right, man.
Oh, my God.
Excellent pronunciation.
Now we just need to work on your English. Anyway, with us tonight, you're not here to see us. You're here to hear from the man himself, Prog Winton Smith, one of the legendary voices of Super Smash Bros. Melee. But before we get into questions with him, we've got a little bio piece about our friend. The storylines of competitive Super Smash Bros. Run deep, but every good story needs a capable narrator. Winton Prog Smith made a career of bringing meaningful, insightful commentary to the biggest stages in Smashdom, earning the Cannon Award at EVO 2014 for his service to the Smash community. Now retired, Prog's passion is anything but faded, using his considerable reach to promote the community he served for so long. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program, Winton Prog Smith. Prog, how are you doing tonight?
Doing quite well. I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get the handsome remark as well.
Oh,
I'll take it. But
it was coming.
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, you're obviously the most handsome person here, and that's why you're answering the questions and not asking them.
Hear it.
There you go. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the format here on the R Smash Brothers AMA, every week we bring you a new Smash guest from the deepest and most important corners of the Smash world. The Smash Brothers AMA mods very graciously put up an AMA they're not just AMA mods, they're R Smash Brothers mods. Put up a thread, and you ask your questions and upvote your favorite ones, and we bring them to you live every Wednesday or Thursday and have the pros, commentators, whoever happens to be important that week, answer them for your viewing pleasure. So without further ado, Prog, are you ready for this week's questions?
Always ready. Let's get into it.
Excellent. Well, let's go ahead and kick it off right away with a question from Subtle Typos. Subtle Typos asks, we'll get the slide up eventually, how has life been since retiring? What plans do you have for the future regarding Melee and the FGC?
Retirement has been pretty solid. I haven't really gone to any events since, I guess, EVO or Smash, although I did make an appearance at SoCal Regionals this year. What are my current plans going on forward? I guess, like you guys said earlier, I never wanted to be known as a commentator. I wanted to be known as a storyteller. And I think one of the biggest things with that is visual media. So you guys may not recognize me if I'm walking around with a monopod and a Canon. It's a bit different than me walking around with a headset and a mic, but trying to figure out exactly how to cater my talents to various scenes, not just Smash.
I was super surprised to hear that. Before this interview started, you were telling me maybe we ran into each other at Absolute Battle here in Dallas not too long ago, and I was like, wait a second. I was in the Smash section of the venue. I did not see you. And now you're speaking my language by saying that you're walking around with a monopod and a camera. Now, you said Canon. That's not enough for me. What camera are you using? What is this, a 5D Mark III, something like that?
Talk later.
Okay, but I think it's awesome that you're producing content, and you're right. We can talk about that later.
Definitely talking shop. One of our beautiful video editors, by the way. If you ever see some of our content on our channel, look out for Efren Salinas' stamp on that. I have to ask, though, now that you're behind the camera as opposed to in front of it, do you feel like that gives you an opportunity to tell the story of the scenes that you're passionate in a different way?
Oh, definitely. I think what was crucial in maybe 2013 and 2014 was as we were introducing people into the Smash scene, they need to know who are their villains, who are their heroes, why they should care about X, why should they care about Z, why as well. But in terms of being behind the camera instead, I kind of want to do a bit of the same, but I want to go back more so than talking about the present. I'm always a fan of, I guess, placing things in time. And for example, with Last Stock Legends, which I guess we'll probably have a couple questions on later on, it's a big part of that. We want to be the archaeologists to uncover a lot of Smash history. And it's not just about the games, it's about the people and the personalities. So that's something that we are really looking to capture.
Yeah, what is that drive, though? I mean, a lot of people have been smitten by that. Obviously, this is an AMA with our guest Prog, But we just had Mike Ross on, and he said the same thing. I wanted to get the stories of these people out. More people need to know about the personalities and the people that exist within this community. Why? Why is there so many interesting people? But the thing is, there's interesting people everywhere. Like, why want to let the world know, Prog?
You know, everyone that becomes enraptured in something has a desire. And I think that the biggest thing in esports and even traditional sports is they're looking for someone that they identify with. They're looking for someone who has the same goals, motivations, passions as them. And that's really what I think a lot of us are looking to uncover. Not just that, but we find out things about ourselves. It's like, I never knew that PPMD really loved bagels, but we have that in common. So, you know, that's something we have in common. It's a reason for people to cheer for him. I think it really hit me at a tournament earlier this year, one of the Nebulous events in New York City. There was a person who came to this tournament. It was the one that Leppin came to after he joined TSM. And he was like, you know, I've never had an interest in Smash at all. You know, I always thought it was a party game. But, you know, I'm a huge League fan, and TSM's my favorite team. So seeing that one of their players is here, but it's a different venue, I want to know a bit more about that. I want to know a bit more about this person, this player, and why they're on this team. So I kind of really want to expose more than what's going on with controllers and arcade sticks.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up because as I'm sort of racking my brain, you know, much like you, I follow League of Legends too. When it comes to the top players in the world of League of Legends, guys like Bjergsen, you know what I know about Bjergsen? I know that he's from Europe and he's really good in the mid lane. And yet in Smash, when you talk about Hungry, like just the names Hungrybox, Armada, Mewtwo King, there's just so much. That name is just the tip of an iceberg that immediately comes to mind. Do you feel like maybe that's your fingerprint on the Smash scene showing through when people make those more robust connections?
I wouldn't say it's entirely mine. Maybe with certain points in gameplay and memories of certain tournaments, but overall I think a big part of that goes to Samox, of course, the creator of the Smash Brothers documentary. You know, 4 hours where we're talking not just about the history of players, but we're talking about the history of a scene, and that got people attached.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, and it's, you know, it's something that has to be said that there's so many people contributing to this community. It's got to be hard to nail it down to just one voice that's making those calls. Along the lines of your career in the world of Smash, Persona asks, what is your favorite set that you've commentated?
Oh, I hate this question. I guess after so long, a lot of these sets kind of bleed in together. So I can never really pick one that I feel is my favorite. I would say the one that sticks out to me always will be EVO 2013. Just that the entire week leading up to it, you know, when we had the issues with the tournament being blocked potentially. And, you know, later on, I'm on stage with James Chen, and it's a mind-blowing experience. So that, of course, will mean a lot to me. In addition, of course, you know, the E3 Invitational, being recognized by Nintendo for something I've done as a hobby for how long? It meant the world to me then, and it still means the world to me now. But if I had to pick one favorite, you know, I guess if there's one set I would say, I try not to watch myself too often. I hate the sound of my voice. People love it. I personally loathe it. But I really have fallen in love every time I watch Kage versus Amsa from Apex 2014. It's just a show match to start the day off, but it was a lot of fun as a set. It was a lot of fun, I guess, talking about characters that are obscure, and we got to be a bit more unchained than I guess we are now. It was a bit more open, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I guess along the same lines, Kage again with Matt.Zeb. I know a lot of people reference that set often, but yeah, it was a lot of fun to do. And I definitely miss a lot of those opportunities, those moments.
You know, the one that always comes to mind whenever I think of your commentating actually is when Mango force-stocked Leffen at Apex. And I remember how how incredibly, you know, idiosyncratic it was to see you and D1 just sitting there, just, you know, just in awe of this set and how what an incredible show of personality that was for the community. So that's personally the one that comes to mind when I think of that. Speaking of your commentating duos, I I have no idea how to pronounce this name, but I will give it my best shot.
Neither do I.
Quay Roy Quay asks, what was going through your head that time when wife said that both Samuses having their charge shot makes his butthole pucker?
Okay, we have to go back in time for this one. We're going way back.
Yeah.
This has to be maybe, I'm trying to think what year it was. Maybe 20, well, this goes back to Pound 5, actually, now I think about it. Pound 5 was my first time ever commentating with wife, and actually, I think one of the first times I commentated with D1. And at one point, there's a match, I believe, Hungry Box. Maybe Hungry Box? Not sure, but I just remember the match was on, it was on Rainbow Cruise. And of course, you know, all the LGBTQ imagery with rainbows and whatnot. And, you know, I'm fully out. Wife is married to a lovely woman. And at one point, not at that point, but he asked me at one point, would you like to join me on this Rainbow Cruise? I'm just like, I'm still closeted right now. I don't want to out myself. I'm just going to ignore it as best as I can. So I had that kind of background with wife. Like, I'm afraid he'll say something that will be taken the wrong way. And that happened at that very moment. And I'm just like, you know, at this point, I'm out in the community. Anything I say can and will be used against me. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. So I did that. And I think a lot of people kind of took to it. They took it as a joke just because I was quiet during the entire thing. I just didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to react. I don't know. You know, I generally don't talk about puckered buttholes and, you know, some people.
You and me both, brother.
I try to keep it to a minimum, I guess.
Probably a good life rule in general. Yeah, it's a tough reality of living an online existence, isn't it? Is that everything you say goes on this digital record.
Yeah, everything is recorded. I'm just like, I know that someone, maybe GR Smash, will take that moment in time, put it on a video, will get like 100,000 views, and it's Prog and wife talking about puckered buttholes. You know, we're trying to go esports right now. I'm not sure that's the route we should take. So sometimes silence is the best option.
Certainly. Well, just like PPMD for the longest time was called Dr. PP, for God's sake.
Well, I mean, he had to live with that. We'll just say it in commentary, but he had to live with that as his name. So it's a bit different.
I remember being a young Smash fan and approaching it and going, okay, hold on. You're telling me that the guy that just won the tournament is named Dr. PP. That was hard to swallow as a young esport, because I came from I think my initial exposure to it was actually Halo was my initial exposure to esports, and they have guys like Straight Sick and T Squared and the Ogre 2, these guys with these badass names, and I walk into this thing and I'm like, Dr. PP, huh? And it was at that moment that I realized, well, there was really something special going on here. There?
You know, there's always an interesting story behind a name. His name, not that interesting of a story, but he was stuck with it for a while.
I'm going to expose myself here as a total fraud here. When we're at EVO, I walk up to him, so I'm like, so what are you, a urologist, or where'd you get that name? And Ian just goes, oh, God, you did not just ask him that.
That was a beautiful moment, though. I thought I cherished that moment.
So we really understood ourselves.
That was also the time that he referred to Armada as Leffen.
I did call Armada Leffen, that's right. He gave me a serious look. I wouldn't say an angry look, just a serious look.
He very politely let it slide.
So that's very Armada. He is one of those guys who's extremely nice and kind when he's not playing, but don't get on his bad side.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I actually got the chance to have breakfast with Armada at Zero. It was my first tournament. I was at Big House 4. And I was this nervous reporter, and I was around these guys who I had worshipped for the past 2 years. And I was like, hey, can I talk to you guys? And Zero was like, come sit down for breakfast, man. And I literally almost shit my pants. Well, maybe not literally.
Depends on what the food was.
Fortunately, I hadn't had Mexican the night before, so I was able to hold it. Is that too raunchy for the show? Is that too gross? I'm so sorry. I'm just going to roll it on. Anyway, got to sit down with Zero and Armada. Great guys. So hoping to get them on the show soon, actually. But anyway, enough about my bowel movements. Let's move it on to the next question.
And we continue this cycle of puckered buttholes like that.
It was appropriate to the question, right? We're talking about puckered buttholes. We can talk about bowel movements just for a little bit.
Beautiful.
But now we're going to move on.
Now we're going to move on to the actual question. Carson Cranian, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, asks, what is one of your favorite moments that you have witnessed within the community? So obviously not just in the game, but in the community in general.
There's been a lot of charity events, and I know we just got off of Smash the Record that happened just last weekend. However, there have been a couple of cases, and one that sticks out to me is if you guys are old enough, you remember a Falcon player from the South named Ennius Noob. Very, very talented player who was on the rise, and unfortunately his life was cut short by a drunk driver, I believe, on Thanksgiving weekend, now maybe 4 to 6 years ago. It's been that long. And, he was someone that, as a Falcon player at that point, someone I really admired play-wise, but I never had the opportunity to meet him. And I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but I know at one point there was a scholarship fund in his name that the community was helping run. And just seeing that kind of rally around, one of our own that's fallen. It doesn't matter that we've never met him. I think actually you guys did a piece last year, if I recall, on Dark Mike, another player who passed away far too soon. And just seeing, this familial aspect come together when we're talking about our own, that means the world to me. We can talk about the game for hours. We can talk about these tournaments that happen. But when you're talking about what goes on outside of the game, those relationships and how long they last and how long they go on, I think that's what means the most to me. I've seen issues where people have had house fires, carbon monoxide poisoning, tons of surgery, and even the menial things now, like I need a fund to go to a tournament. It's happening so regularly at this point. But when we're rallying around one another, when our well-being is at hand, or when we lost one of our own, that's what means the most to me.
Prog, a question. I mean, you're talking about how it's so important for you to get these stories out of these players, but now you're mentioning ones that have, their run has been cut short. How important is it to the community to remember these guys? Because I feel like unique to the Smash community, there's a lot of heart and a lot of very close-knit emotional ties. But if you're new to the scene, hey, I just learned about Smash when Smash 4 came out for the Wii U. Is how important are these stories for the health of the community? Do you think that they help, build that bond? And what if you don't know? What if you haven't heard those stories? You're new.
That's why we're there to tell them. We're not telling it for our own sake. I guess it is some kind of catharsis, and it is always good to remember all these good times and past tournaments and events. But at the same time, we're talking about a history that we really didn't expect to have a history at this point. None of us expected to be this far along so many years later in the Smash scene. No one expected us to be where we are in the realm of the fighting community and esports. But lo and behold, here we are, and there's a lot that got us to that point. And I think that, especially after people look at things like the original Smash Bros. Documentary, people do want to know about these histories. People are enthralled with this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not just players, there are fans that want to know. There are people who are outside of the scene, and they're getting involved with this. So it has to be told. When it comes to these stories, we can't tell every story. It's impossible. But, we do our best with what we have. And hopefully in the future, we'll have more resources to do that. But for right now, we're just doing what we can with what we have.
It's interesting because, Efren, you come from the Street Fighter background and Mortal Kombat and the general fight, more generalized.
FGC,
yeah, the FGC, exactly. What is it, Prog, do you think about just the nature of fighting games competition that causes people to form these sort of bonds? Is it the fact that you see each other face to face? Is it the local community? What is so special about fighting games that this sort of thing is surprisingly commonplace?
I think the biggest thing is that there's no one to blame but yourself. Unless we're talking about doubles or things of that nature, there's no one to blame but yourself. I think Leffen had a tweet about this yesterday, but if you're playing, if you're like me and your feeding bot lane is barred 24/7, you can always say, oh yeah, my top lane didn't call it a gank or didn't ward properly. They didn't know that someone was AFK. But when you're playing a fighting game, it all rests on your shoulders. It's not like, okay, yeah, I can blame it on my teammates. And unless you're talking about doubles, or even when Cross Tekken was doing doubles as well. But
that one Evo.
Yeah.
That was 2013.
Mm-hmm. I think it was. Maybe. No, it couldn't have been 2012. Could it have been?
Maybe? I think it was 2013.
Oh, man. I just remember Mike Ross and Combo Fiend getting perfected by Laugh and Infiltration. But you were saying?
It's Korea, man. They're too good. But yeah, when you can't put the blame on yourself, or when you have to put the blame on yourself, you kind of have to step it up a lot. It's, okay, I know that I messed up here, here, and here, or I need to improve. Let me play, these players are local, or I'm going to study these videos. It's all focusing on yourself and not, there's nowhere else to push the blame. It's, I got outclassed, I wasn't good enough. People can make as many excuses as they can to make themselves feel better. I know I've made plenty of them myself. But at the end of the day, it's how can I improve, how can I progress? And I think that's what draws a lot of people to fighting games and Smash as well.
Speaking about your career as a player, actually, that transitions nicely into our next question. The Jerks is Us asks, how far did you get as a player before switching to recording, editing, and commentating? Do you ever wish you could have taken your potential as a player further?
For the second question, every day. Every day. I'm not going to say, I'm like Al Bundy, who has a VCR of like his biggest moments.
That touchdown he threw in high school?
Dude, it was such a great game. 3 touchdowns.
That's right. My bad.
But, as a player, I always felt like I didn't get as far as I wanted to. If I'm talking about what my biggest wins were, does it really matter in the end? Okay, so Prog took a set from Eggum, or had a rivalry with Strychnine at one point, or was constantly battling OTG or J-Man or Hacks at certain points. That, in the end of the day, that really doesn't matter to me. It's just that wasn't good enough. I guess maybe at one point during my heyday, I might have been top 15 in the tri-state area, and that tri-state area at that point was Me Too King, PC Chris, Vans, Hacks, J-Man, Eggum, so on and so forth. But in the large scale of things, that wasn't what I was shooting for. I was always shooting for far more. I always wanted to be the best. I didn't want to be an up-and-comer. I didn't want to be the best player in my city or in Long Island or in New York. No, I think I was aspired to being the best. And every day, sure, I did a lot with a microphone, or with video editing software, or even with an old school Dazzle, just recording videos. But as a player, I guess that's my biggest regret in the scene. I didn't make it as far as I aspired to, and I guess I always think, how far could I have gotten? Especially because when I stopped playing, I guess, regularly, I was starting to hit a stride. I was starting to have a breakthrough. And it all just came crashing down super quick. And I guess just to give some background into that, but after I graduated from college, I got my first job at Toys R Us, shouts to the R Zone. And I was able to still go to tournaments here and there. I couldn't go to fests very often, but I lied to my supervisor. I'm so sorry, Kathleen. I said that I was part of a boys and girls program. I was a big brother, and I couldn't come to work on Saturdays and Sundays because that's when I'm volunteering to help these kids. And really, I was just playing Smash. Sorry, but it's the truth. But eventually, I moved on to Verizon, and I couldn't get weekends off. I was working late nights. I couldn't go to fests or anything of that nature. Could rarely practice, and I think that was part one of why I stopped as a player. If I could make it to a tournament, I would just be there with my laptop and with my recording equipment, or with my microphone doing commentary. But as a player, that was one of the biggest strikes. The second strike is one I don't really talk about too often. But back when I was in college, there was a good friend of mine. We were both in the honors dorm and everything, and our room door would always be open. And I'd be in there practicing Smash. It was awful. Like anyone that went to college with me knows, like, I was always playing Smash. We'd carry a humongous CRT across Cecil B. Moore and Broad Street in Philadelphia. Not the nicest neighborhood. We did it like so often. And there was one guy who he was he was an associate of mine, an acquaintance, but he was tied with one of my roommates. And he said, "Hey man, Winton, you're always in here playing Smash. One day you gotta stop, man. You gotta slow it down." I'm just like, "Okay, sure. One day, I'll give it up. I'll stop playing, and we can just hang out or whatever." Unfortunately, a couple of this, I think, was 2010, not too long before Zenith that year. I got word that he was standing on a subway platform, collapsed, and never recovered from it. So, I didn't make it to his funeral, but it was rough. It was really, really rough because even though we weren't that close, I still associated this person with me practicing, me playing. And, I just figured at that point, I said to him I would stop playing. That might be the best time to do it. And, yeah, that's part of the reason why I stopped entering. And, it sucks, I lost it. Who knows? Who knows why I lost? And I don't know. I really don't know where to go from this question before.
No, it's a powerful
yeah,
story.
That really hurt. That really, really hurt. And I just wanted to keep that promise to him. And since then, I haven't entered anything singles. I've entered a couple doubles events, mostly just to team with friends who, who knows, by the same token, if you're ever going to see them again. So may as well do it. But I kept my promise in singles for him.
Well, it's a very profound story. It makes you realize, just how important these hours that we spend playing a game, or especially playing a game with the people around us, really how much of an impact that can have on your life. Thank you for sharing that. The mood's not going to get any lighter because the next question from Hemoglobin is asking some hard-hitting stuff. So I hope you're prepared. Hemoglobin asks, did you feel? There's actually several parts to this question, so we'll take them one at a time. He says, did you feel like you were ostracized by the community you've done so much for?
Ooh, I'm guessing this is in relation to Evo this year. Ostracized is kind of a harsh word. I wouldn't say that. I will say, though, that it really hurt for a very, very long time. Evo, it meant the world to me in 2013. I think, no one besides Scar may have fought as hard as I did. And, just being at Evo means the world to me. So when, Chris Sedley and Mr. Wizard said, "Hey, do you want to commentate?" To myself, I was thinking, I haven't done this basically in a year. I'm always watching social media. I mean, this is a Reddit AMA on our Smashbros. I was a mod there. I'm always tapped in there. I might not post there, but I'm just looking. Some criticism. It was, it hurt. It hurt a lot. And especially, I think, when it was announced that I was going to do it. I had spent plenty of time ahead of time prepping for it. Everyone knows that my notes in 2013 were being made fun of because I accidentally left them at the stream station, but then they started going through it. They're like, these guys are serious. Smash was serious about their game. They love for it. And, I was working on that, and I was prepping for all this stuff that people wanted to see from me. They wanted me to, I guess, raise the bar because, I'll definitely admit with my commentary, I really wasn't focused on the veteran players. I figure I want to get the new players involved. The game will keep them, and that's been true for how many people. So my main focus was on getting those new people involved in getting them entrenched in the scene. But yeah, it definitely hurt a lot.
Well, of the follow-up question to that is, a little bit of self-exploration, if you don't mind. Hemoglobin asks, do you believe any of the criticisms leveled at you in D1 were valid?
Oh, sure, definitely. I definitely agree with a majority of the criticisms, but I think at the same time, a lot of people didn't realize what our motivation for doing it that way was. You know, I always bring the example with Evo. If I try and gear commentary for Evo towards Smashers, what percentage of the viewers are actually Smashers, especially in 2013? How many of those people that are watching know what a wave dash is? How many of them will know, about an L cancel? And sure, all that stuff is basic to Smashers, but there are far more than Smashers are out there. We're talking to these companies, we're talking to other scenes, we're talking to first-time viewers. We're trying to play Age of Empires 2, and we're trying to convert people to the Church of Smash. And that was the motivation for D1 and I when we geared our commentary a certain way. And definitely, with the when people compare, Wobbles and Woj and that, oh, definitely, I love those guys. Those are all homies to me. And the commentary they provide for veteran players, top notch. Period. However, when it comes to, I guess, bringing people into the scene, a lot of the knowledge that they drop, it can be scary. It can be a lot at once. So we're just trying to help the scene grow. So,
Prog, it's funny that you mentioned that and you mentioned James Chen earlier as well. I've heard him say that same thing. He's like,
I think he had a post on his blog spot about it, if I recall.
Come again? I'm sorry?
I think he had a post about it on his blog as well.
That's right. And the basic sentiment is, how dumbed down or watered down do you go to not insult the diehard fans, but to still make it accessible? And then even when you try to make it accessible, people, don't like it, and it's even still not accessible. Where do you draw that line? You, as somebody who commentated professionally, how serious is that concern, especially going forward if we're trying to blow this up to bigger levels?
It's still a humongous concern. If you go onto Reddit at any point, you'll see commentators there now are posting, hey, this event is done. So how was I? What can I do better? Things like that. And, that feedback, of course, is important, but it's not enough feedback, Reddit, our Smashbros, our SSBM, yeah, that's a very, very geared demographic, but they aren't the entire demographic when it comes to Smash viewership. How many of the people that are watching, of 300,000 people are watching Evo, for example, will go to our Smashbros afterwards? We're trying to give them crumbs. We're trying to lead that trail to where they want to know more. They want to become part of the community. So it is really, really, really difficult to draw that line because, again, you want to keep your veterans entrenched and you want them to keep watching. But at the same time, you want your scene to grow. And you're not going to grow with the same people you've been growing with for the past 3 or 4 years. So it's tough. It's really, really difficult to find that balance.
On that topic, bringing up the Smash Brothers subreddit and other various internet message boards, Hemoglobin also asks, do you think the Smash internet community, our Smash Brothers Melee Hell Smash boards, is capable of giving constructive input, and do they dictate too much of what happens inside the physical Smash community?
I'd say the internet community is definitely capable of giving constructive input. However, it's never going to appear that way. I'd say, I guess I'll phrase it this way. It's a lot harder to do things now than it was, I guess, when I first got started. When D1, Waffles, Wife, so on and so forth. Look at Topin Scar even. When you're looking at these commentators, we were basically figuring out as we went along. None of us went to broadcasting school to learn how to become a proper sports broadcaster. We're all just amateurs who have a passion and a love for a game. And that's how we got into it. And that's why we've been doing it for all this time. But I guess nowadays, you can't do anything without hearing about it immediately. I can post something on Facebook and I'll get comments completely unrelated about commentary. Or, I'll check Twitter and in my DMs there's someone telling me that, hey, I've got some unkind words for you. Or you go onto Reddit and you'll see the deviation in Reddit, for example. I remember when I remember over the 2 days when it was announced I was doing EVO 2015, and then when it was announced I wasn't doing EVO 2015, it seemed like night and day. But it's not a hive mind. Everyone has their own individual contributions, but it is capable of. There's definitely room for constructive input. It's just hard to, I guess, it's hard to be able to filter out what actually you're hearing, especially with as many voices screaming as that. As for the second part of the question, if they dictate too much of what happens inside the Smash community, I'd say here and there. These are the people that your players are looking for, especially the streamers. You're trying to make, if you're trying to help Smash grow, you're trying to go to events. This is the same demographic that you're reaching out to, because they're the ones that they definitely are showing interest. Whether they're posting about it, they're talking about it, and that's enough to keep the buzz alive. But you're hoping to convert them. For example, if you're a top player, I want them to spectate my stream. Cool, I love it. Will they subscribe? Let's find out. How do they like my YouTube? What kind of content we put out is based upon what the viewership wants. If it fails, if it bombs, oh well. But yeah, I think they definitely dictate a lot of what happens in the community. I wouldn't say it's too much, because honestly, I don't think anyone is really dictating too much of what's going on. We're hearing from multiple voices. We're hearing from fans. We're hearing from Twitch. We're hearing from top players. It's a lot of voices. So I wouldn't say it's too much, but they definitely have a say, and it's one that has to be respected. It definitely has to be respected.
Prog, you brought up the whole idea of hey, we're not professional sports broadcasters. Is that necessary? Do you think, because you see the Riot guys, they bring in some pros to teach them how to have banter and things of that nature, how to break down a play, how to talk about a play, how to talk to players for interviews. I mean, legit training. Do you think that, I say Smash, but I mean the FGC as a whole, do they need that? And if so, who gets it and who pays for it?
No, that's the thing. Honestly, I feel like the way the FGC and Smash operate right now, I don't think that's necessary. I think that the commentators we have are working hard, and we don't have the resources to send these guys to broadcasting school. It's not something that would happen. And honestly, I'm not sure if it's something that's worth. I guess when we talk about improving the FGC or improving Smash, I'm not sure if that goes too high on our priority list. Look at guys like Seth Killian or Combo Fiend, Yipes, Persia, of course Ultra Chen, and again, you look back at the Smash scene. You look at guys like D1, TK Breezy, Token Scar, so on and so forth. Sky. These guys, they're learning it as they go along. And I don't think that us spending the resources on, I guess, improving commentators, I guess, that kind of way is necessary. I think a lot of people would prefer, for example, a lot of people talk about Smash. Why are there no instant replays? And they're like, well, we've seen Salty Playground do it. And yeah, the Salty Playground does it, but they're not doing it. I wouldn't say the proper way, but they figured out a way to do it, and it's not something that's always going to work. But for now, it's feasible. Ask Gimmer right now. Ask Chibo. Ask the guys at Showdown Smash. Ask over Capcom Fighters. How much is a TriCaster? Yeah. How much money do you guys have? Yeah. Would you like one? And I think that's where resources should eventually be streamlined toward. If we want to reach those levels of, people always compare, Smash and the LCS. I don't think we're going to fill out Madison Square Garden at any point, anytime soon. Maybe in a couple of years, but definitely not right now.
But this is like the whole new ecosystem of coming and streaming these things with a corporate backing. Like in this case, the Capcom Fighters now putting in their full effort for this Capcom Pro Tour events. Right. You mentioned getting a TriCaster. It would have to be somebody like a Capcom, although I think that people overestimate their budget and the size of their team. But you expect them to travel around like these like when there's the Final Four and you see all these ESPN trucks and ABC and CBS, all these satellite trucks. Is that what you're expecting? Because I don't see that happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
Oh no, I definitely don't see us having satellite trucks outside of Evo. Almost maybe it'll be a mainstream company covering it. Mm-hmm. But anything like that, I think is a bit too far off and not the main concern at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, until you're behind the camera or in the studio, it can be difficult to understand just how much work and how much preparation and how much equipment and knowledge goes into putting together something like a Final Four broadcast or something like that. But
especially when you look at Evo, people will always hold Evo in the FGC as the gold standard of production, and you don't have to question why. You look at their team, you look at what they have, you look at the resources they spend, and yeah, it comes across. It's perfect. But not every event has that kind of resonance or that kind of budget, and especially in Smash, Smash isn't like Capcom Fighters, where that you'll have Hanzo Gonzo and Chris Ellie out there for a majority of these NA events and things of that nature. Smash, we're splitting between various events where it's VG Bootcamp and Showdown Smash and Tourney Locator, Clash Tournament, so on and so forth. And that's what 4 different TriCasters right there. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Ton.
Yeah. Speaking of these events and these projects, Vinny F actually asks about Last Stock Legends. First of all, he says, "Hi, Prog." Then he asks, "Can you tell us about Last Stock Legends and what you plan to do with the project now and in the future?"
All right. So, Last Stock Legends is a digital archaeology group. I like using that term a lot. I also like air quotes, but it's a digital archaeology group. Basically, we want to talk about a lot of old history now in Smash. A lot of people feel like if it happened prior to 2013, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't on a stream, it didn't matter. They're wrong. That's part of the stories we have to tell. For example, people still rave about West Balls as Falco. Where would West Balls be if there was no Bomb Soldier? Someone in the stream chat right now is probably like, who is Bomb Soldier? That's why these stories have to be told. It's a series of mini documentaries. We're currently planning for them to be 2 to 3 minutes a pop, but we might be changing that later on. We'll talk about it later on. But we've got some interesting and exciting news about the project. Right now, actually, the most recent thing that we did for Last Stock Legends was, if you guys are familiar with VG Bootcamp's very own Papa Paint, he and Gangly, who is one of the people that we've met through this project, they were at the Big House 5, and they did 2 things for it. They did a miniature behind-the-scenes look, and also a small documentary as well, following a couple of players. Both of those hopefully will be out before the end of this calendar year. At worst, we definitely will have another teaser for Last Stock Legends before Thanksgiving. So we have that part. And the other part is more along the lines of digital archaeology. We're talking to players about these matches and their mindsets and things of that nature. But there's also a lot of history that has been lost, because they weren't recorded or they weren't streamed. So, for example, I've got about 60 or 70 of these mini DVs.
Dang, you were messing around with that old school tech and the Dazzle and all that business, weren't you?
Yeah, this is all from, if you guys are familiar with Bach, Bach's montages got tons of people into the scene. And it just so happens that...
Oh my gosh.
So...
you got some work on your hands.
Over time, digitized. And the hard part is going to be actually talking to players that were there and if they know what match are these and what sets are these. But I guess I don't want to give away too much. But if you guys are a fan of Sam Oxen's Smash Brothers documentary, Last Stock Legends may have added a little something to that from a little tournament called Rokuro of Smash 2. If you guys want to look it up, I'm not sure how much information you guys can find on it, but you'll understand why in the grand scheme of things. I'm not going to give away too much.
Prog, there's people in the chat asking where they can find out more about this project that you're talking about. Some are unfamiliar with it. Where can they go? Maybe not what you just referenced, but this project in general. Where can you direct people?
If you guys want to keep posted on what we're doing with Last Stock Legends, you can follow us on Twitter at Last Stock Legends singular, or you can email us at laststocklegends@gmail.com, or even just hit me up and ask questions about it. I'm usually up for talking about it, unless, for example, I don't know, one of the DVs got eaten or something like that, which hasn't happened yet. I'm praying it doesn't happen. But you can follow us on Twitter, or even just hit me up on Gmail, or on just track me down, or even on Reddit. I'm L Prog on Reddit. I think there's a dash in between. I don't remember. I think there's a dash. But even if you ask me questions there, or you can ask the crew on the Last Stock Legends Twitter. So.
It's kind of crazy to me that there's an entire generation of players that without Samox and the Smash Brothers documentary would only know, would first of all never have heard of PC Chris, and would only know of Korean DJ as a Team Liquid player who couldn't break the top 16.
Even if we're talking about that, I think that without the documentary, would we even know Korean DJ as a Team Liquid player? Would there be Team Liquid? Or would Smash be in, or would Team Liquid be in Smash without the documentary? And honestly, I'll say definitely. That was, 2013 was the turning point. You had EVO expose the community to the world, really, or to the greater fighting game community, and reintroduce Smash to the esports realm in EVO 2013. Then a couple months later, in October, documentary comes out, and all of a sudden, holy crap. I learned about it at EVO. Now I'm learning it's past. I want to be involved in it. And we've seen that from everyone at this point. So, I always say Samox is the reason why Smash is where it is right now.
That's high praise. That's a very high praise. That's fascinating. Well, we've spoken a little bit about the crossover between the Smash community and the fighting games community, how they share some characteristics. Ace King Offsuit, contributor to RCAP. Got your control stick. Beautiful. Ace King Offsuit, excellent fighting games contributor, has actually written a couple of articles for us, is wondering, what is one thing you wish the Smash community could take from the traditional fighting game community?
Okay. Actually, I want to give a big shout out to him as well, because if you guys follow him on Twitter, this guy is always letting people know as to what's going on. He's always posting points updates and things like that. Really well entrenched, and he's one of those heroes that people don't hear about. I know that I've seen some heavy praise thrown at him from both James Channel and Ultra David, so the right people are taking note. So definitely keep him doing good work for you guys. But if there's anything I wish the Smash community would take away from the traditional fighting game community, it's about, I guess, it's about the international presence, first and foremost to me. When I look at Smash, and this is all Smash, I think of, okay, we have Chile with Zero, we have Europe doing their thing, Japan pops up here and there, and we have North America, and occasionally here in South America. But when I look at, for example, Street Fighter, dude, I'm looking at Xian out in Singapore. I'm getting ready for the Capcom Pro Tour event in Singapore pretty soon. I'm intrigued by these players who are in the EU, who are like Valmaster and like Luffy and Ryan Hart, who's at Canada Cup. Canadian players as well, United States. It seems like, of course, Korea with Infiltration, China with Dakao and Zhaohai. There's a lot of players out there from a lot of countries, and I know Smash at this point is still trying to finagle its way into various scenes. I'm hearing about events that are going on in Korea now, that are going on in the Philippines, but there's really not that kind of global push like we've seen with the Capcom Pro Tour, for example, where they are hosting events like Tokyo Game Show in Japan, where there's this big end game and where we are seeing, top players interact with, I don't want to say randoms, but these are local players who may be local legends. I mean, honestly, we knew about Kioma in Brazil from his set with Sako ages ago. No one really checked in with them until, well, he beat Haitani. So I think the biggest thing that I want Smash to take from the traditional FGC at this point is how to, I guess, build internationally. And I guess if we're talking about the other way around, so I think that was the second part of this question.
That's the second part of the question. We'll ask it. Before we get to it, I have a follow-up question for you. One, you held up your fight stick, I think, and you weren't on the shot, so could you do it again for us so we can see?
Oh, which one? I got two here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, regardless, the point is that you got your cred. The second was this Korean scene. There is a Korean scene. We had these guys from Korea Gaming on Best of Three a couple of, like a month and change ago, and he was saying that there was this scene growing in Korea. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and you're the right guy to ask, but you mentioned Absolute Battle. I walked over to that Smash side of the venue, and I'm not going to say it was crickets, but relative to the other side of the venue that was all the Marvel and the Street Fighter, that room was bumping.
I know.
I get the impression, and keep in mind I'm the FGC guy, right, and I'm not the Smash guy, but I get the impression that I'm not going to care about any Smash tournament unless all the gods are there. And if all the gods aren't there, then it's not worth my time. That is a damn shame, in my view. Am I misguided in the way I'm interpreting it?
I would say with, for example, Absolute Battle, and even this is something I saw with SCR, it's hard for for crossover now for a lot of fighting game and Smash tournaments, I would say. Unless it's, I mean, even when you talk about Evo, a lot of Smashers are kind of upset, doubles doesn't happen there. But, that's not traditionally a Smash event.
Mm-hmm.
Had appearances there, but it's not a Smash-focused event. And I think that, especially with events like that, I guess a lot of people kind of forget that they have to come to Smash for that. I'm not sure how many of these events were posted on things like Smash boards or have posts on Reddit. Whereas, for example, SCR, I'll definitely hear about it on, by a stream, or I'll see, it on SRK or Event Hubs. Sure. How many Smashers check that site regularly though? It's very, very different, It's like, not every anime player will check out SRK. They might go to Dust Loop and then find things there. Mortal Kombat players might be a tester, you kind of have to remember to, I guess, guide your marketing toward that demographic as well. Even if it's just a short slide for VG Bootcamp, that could be huge. Mm-hmm. So I think another thing that went wrong with a lot of these events is that Smash right now is so packed. I know SCR was the weekend after the Big House 5, and just because of that, it fell off a lot of people's radars. So it's really hard, I guess, to find that right balance. I think Jabali does extremely well with the CEO series, where he is able to bring in the Smash community at large and still provide for the FGC without making either community feel, feel weird and in that situation. But I think that's one of the big things right now is that a lot of these FGC tournaments definitely need to market to Smash a bit more. But on the other end of the spectrum with this question, one thing that I think a lot of people have been praising Smash for recently, particularly with the Big House 5 and Jungle Guy, is tournament organization and structure. You have people entering so many different events, making sure that each wave of pools has no issues with someone playing 3 or 4 games at the same time. That's been a huge thing we've had to deal with because of Shout to Me 2 King. This guy's been playing how many different games and singles and doubles for how long? You have to design a tournament around him, basically. And I think that tournament organization is one thing that it definitely needs improvement on both sides of the fence. I think, in the Smash community, Jungle Guy is a pinnacle of that. But, he's not doing it alone. He's studying guys like Rick the Hadu, who does Combo Breaker. He's studying Jabali. He's studying all these other scenes. So, yeah, it's just a big matter of more just us learning from one another, especially when it comes to how to run events and how to appeal to one another. I know as a commentator, I studied all those guys I mentioned earlier, like Yipes and, of course, like David, James, Seth, so on and so forth. So, there is a lot of crossbreeding that people, I guess, need to take advantage of again. And even by that standpoint, I think one thing that irks me a lot about Smashers are when they say at this point, we don't need the FGC. I'm just like, dude, the FGC is how we got to this point. If the FGC didn't open up their arms at EVO, ask me if any of those players that you like right now that are signed on a team would be on one. No, we're still playing in basements. We're still playing, we're not in ballrooms. We're just doing the same thing we've been doing for the past however many years without any growth or any improvement. So.
Oh, it sounds like you're ready for the second part of this question. Of course, we're asking the reverse. Ace King Offsuit follows up with, what is one thing you wish the traditional fighting game community could take from the Smash community?
I think I covered that a bit with tournament structure and organization. I think the Big House 5 definitely did a lot and did it right. And I think that, that might be the new benchmark for Smash. But I think it's going to be about tournament structure and organization and just putting information out there. Alternatively, I think, resources like Smash GG are huge for the Smash scene, and I'm not sure if there's anything like that in, the traditional FGC at this point. But it is obvious that the communities are certainly, they're learning from one another. If you talk to the guys over at Marvel Lives That podcast, they got the idea from Melee and On Me, where it's us being entrenched in our scene and wanting to improve. So.
Excellent. Well, here's hoping that both scenes are listening to you right now, because obviously a lot of good ideas going around. Moving on, we've talked about the past, we've talked about the present. Now let's talk about the future. Maple Dialga asks, considering you were a commentator for the Smash 4 National and Invitational, what are your thoughts on Smash 4, and where do you see it going?
So, for Smash 4, I will admit, without a doubt, I was one of the people who was definitely concerned with the direction of the game, how it would be perceived as a not just as an esport, but as a competitive game entirely. And I know a lot of people, even in the Smash 4 scene, were looking at Apex this year, and they were like, "Okay, we need to do some things and get things shifting around for us to be, I guess, more interesting or to bring in more people." And you look at how it is now, and it's day and night. I knew that, of course, going to Apex, Zero was the winner, or Zero was the favorite. And now people are getting these storylines that we're seeing develop. The storylines we have in Melee are being developed in Smash 4, and that's what's keeping people involved. Everyone's talking about Zero right now, and yeah, he got beat by Nairo. But now people are like, okay, so Nairo can take him down. Who's next? Is it going to be DeBuzz? It will be Esam. How's Trela doing? So on and so forth. And that's one thing that Smash 4, and I think every competitive game at this point needs, people to guide and write those narratives. So when people are talking about, hey, yeah, Smash 4, yeah, as a game, it may or may not be your bread and butter, but if you're looking at the players, if you're looking for that interaction, dude, it's what every other game has, and if you're missing out on that, you're lacking. There's a lot of new blood with Smash 4, and there's a lot of old blood as well from the Brawl era, and just that kind of juxtaposition is interesting to me. I know that there's players out in Mexico right now, like Vinny and Max Ketchum, and I think that Leo guy from Mexico, extremely young player, who a lot of people are calling, the next big thing, is going to be out there playing. How good is he now? How good will he be? And these are questions that people are asking, which means that people are enthralled and people are interested. So I think Smash 4 has pretty healthy future as long as they keep it up. I'm pretty sure Esam is in the chat. Esam, win something soon, please.
Oh,
That's not shots fired. That's shots that's friend. Like, Esam's my buddy. Esam is one of the best people, period, in the Smash 4 scene, all around. As a player, as a person, he does it all. He's a great dude. So those are the people that you always want to build a scene around. When people think, when Melee was making the transition, people were concerned, about how certain personalities would go off, but they were like magnets. They were attracted to, personalities like Armada and PPMD and Mango and Hungry Box and everything about them. And Smash 4 is getting the hang of that. You see these guys with their thousands of followers on Twitter. You see how they stream, and you see that these people are enthralled in the game. So that's definitely a good sign for it.
Yeah, and at such an early point in the game's development, you already see teams like TSM and Cloud9 and Team Liquid investing in it. That's obviously a very promising sign.
Very good sign. Yeah. I had this conversation with Max Ketchum prior to EVO, and he was like, man, if these teams aren't looking at Smash 4 yet, we need them to get involved. And I had to tell him, when you look at EVO 2013, no one was signed until, I believe, March or February for Melee. And that was with Team Liquid. Those guys that they were signed for Team Liquid, yeah, they were in top 8 that year.
Yeah.
So it takes some time for them. Honestly, Smash 4 at this point has 3 top players signed, 3 months after EVO? That's a really, really good sign. And you look at the teams, it's Liquid, it's TSM. These are not teams that it's CLG. These are teams that you do not sleep on. No. These are teams with branding and teams that mean a lot in esports and altogether. So it's a good sign. It's definitely a good sign.
Yeah, certainly interesting to watch the community develop. And I remember when Nairo took down Zero, spoilers, everybody, it was so crazy because the Twitter reaction, at least among the people that I follow, felt like when I watched the New York Giants beat the Patriots, 4 or 5 years ago. God, was it longer than that? God, I'm getting old. Anyway, same, huge reaction. The storyline was that significant that people just blew up when Zero fell. And it was sad to see the record, the run come to an end. But at the same time, it's been a lot of fun to watch Melee for a certain set of storylines and then come to Smash 4 and get, like this whole new buffet of Smash goodness.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of carryover from Brawl. And I think that, because of how Brawl kind of died out. A lot of those stories, they weren't told. But because of that, it kind of worked out in Smash 4's favor because you get to explore that depth. It provides those years prior when the game has been out that long. So,
Excellent. Well, we got a couple more questions left with the time that we have allotted, and then a very special treat for all of you who are watching tonight. We will announce next week's guest, so look forward to that. Stick around for a couple more minutes. The Metal Fist asks, in juxtaposing the Smash community's recent surge in growth with Nintendo's newfound, yet minimal, commercial support, do you have any predictions about the future of the Smash Bros. Franchise in mainstream sport? God, I cannot talk.
It's all good. It happens to me all the time. I commentate.
Prog, I'm willing to bet that you actually don't need to make a prediction. You probably have some information that some of us might not. So please make the most informed decision that you possibly could.
Okay. I would say that I think that Smash as a franchise is going to be going through a lot soon. Who knows how things are going to end up. But I think that there's room for it to grow. I just think that a lot of people are kind of expecting the moon and stars when the sun hasn't set yet. I feel like when people look at, for example, Riot filling out Madison Square Garden, things like that, that could be the future, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. It won't happen next week. It won't happen in a month. Probably not a year, maybe not in the next 3 or 4 years, but I think it is potentially something that can happen. The demographic for esports as a whole is young, it's growing up, and it's growing. So I think in time, sure, we can do big things like that. But right now, we're going to be slowly figuring things out. I think that's probably for the best, making these slow games and figuring out what our next moves are. And doing it right, because, we only really get one shot, things like this. If we mess it up, good luck.
Yeah, certainly don't. I mean, if you're going to make growth, the most important thing is not to create a bubble, which esports has unfortunately seen a time or two. So slow and steady wins the race as far as I'm concerned. Final question from the best.
For the night. Bring it on.
Yeah. Final question from the best around 555 asks, what is your opinion on Toph and Scar as the new Prog and D1?
Oh, boy. Shouts to my former brother in Melee and On Me. Toph and Scar, I love those guys. But I guess it depends on what you mean by the new Prog and D1. I don't think that at any point in their commentary, Toph and Scar are saying, what would Prog say? What would D1 say? What would we do? How would we dress? No, it's not about that to them. They're not trying to be the next Prog and D1. They're trying to be the first Toph and Scar. And that's what everyone should be aspiring to be. You shouldn't try and be the next Leopard or the next Armada. You should be the first you, and if you can surpass them, go for it. But I guess if he's asking this question as Toph and Scar as new guys who are doing every major, dude, go for it. I mean, Scar and I, we have a long, long history back to college. God, thinking back, we go way back. Toph, haven't known him nearly as long, but he's another stand-up dude. And what the most important thing is, these aren't guys who are, coming in and who are taking over the scene because they figure, hey, I can get some money out of it, things like that. No, that's not it at all. These are guys who care about the scene and who have put their heart and their blood and soul into it the same way that I have, the same way that D1 has. They've done just as much as we have. So if it's about passing the torch, by all means, those guys deserve it and can have it. But they're not trying to be Prog and D1. They're trying to be Toph and Scar. Those guys care a lot about the scene. They want what's best for it, and I believe wholeheartedly. So
excellent. Efren, do you have one final question?
Yeah, my final question. We've been hearing this a lot in the chat, and I wanted to make sure we got it in before. This was Exterminator actually who was asking, but a lot of people there as well. Will you ever come back? Will we ever see Prog on commentary again?
Well, I guess this is what you call a cheap plug. If you're looking for commentary and whatnot, I'll do locals here and there, especially on 20 Locator Monday nights. I'll pop up here and there. As for, I guess, full-time commentary, probably not. I've been thinking a lot about commentary overall, and, it's something that I guess I care about a lot, and I love doing it. But thinking about, I guess, the past couple of years in particular, I took a toll on myself doing that commentary and going to event to event. So, for example, I see D1 in the chat. this guy is going all over the world. It's nonstop for him. And I know personally with my body, at least where I was a couple of months ago, I definitely could not. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that at all. Maybe here and there I might pop in and do something, but if you're looking for me to try and do top eights at every major again, nah. So yeah, I'd say, will Prog commentate again? Sure. Will it be full time? Probably not. Am I going to enjoy it? Definitely. But it's all about the right time and the right place for everything in life, right?
Absolutely. Well, whenever you schedule your return, even if it's just for a cameo, we look forward to hearing your voice. Prog, as we wrap up here, do you have any shout outs, anything you'd like to say before we close up shop for the night?
Ooh, okay. Let's see.
Shout outs to ESAM.
First and foremost, shouts to ESAM. Secondly, again, I see D1 in the chat. D1 and I, we haven't crossed paths as much this year, and I guess that's mostly because I've been traveling as much. But, D1 that's my brother. And, despite what happens and everything, that's a guy that, I hope like in 40 years, like I'm at the same old folks home as him. I'm going to yell at him. I'm probably just going to, turn off his, I don't know. I'm going to mess with his hearing aids and things like that because I'm going to prank D1. He's old. Deal with the D. But shouts to D1. Shouts to the Melee Army team. Shouts to the Last Stop Legends team as well. Shouts to all the players out there. Doesn't matter what game you play. Doesn't matter what. Just keep trying. And I guess the biggest thing to shout out, besides you guys for having me, thank you again, is just everyone that cares about a scene and puts their heart and soul into it. It's not easy. It doesn't always turn out how you expect it to do. And sometimes you get the sweet, sometimes you get the bitter. But in the long run, it all happens for a reason. It all pays off in the end. So.
Well, thank you so much, Prog. Appreciate your wisdom and your memories throughout the scene. Obviously means a lot to people who have dedicated so much of their time to Smash Brothers.
The archivist. He's the archivist.
You are the archivist.
He's keeping the stories.
You're the one, man.
You want to know what happened? One-stop shop right here. You're doing the Lord's work, Prog.
I've been doing that for years.
The Smash God's work. Beautiful. Well, that's actually going to do it for us tonight. This has been another Thursday with the R Smashbros AMA. But next Thursday, I'm very excited to announce we will have the man himself, TSM's Zero, on the show. Very excited to be announcing that. We'll get to pick his brain, learn a little bit about more about Chile, and hopefully a little bit more about Diddy and Sheik when he comes on the show next week. So that's going to do it for us tonight, Prog. Thank you so much for coming on the show. If you enjoyed it and you're sitting at home right now, you are one click away from following this channel. Also, do us a huge favor. Go to youtube.com/daily.esports and hit the subscribe button. I will give you 5 seconds to do so. And your time's and your time is officially up. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and catch us live next Thursday as we talk to Zero for another edition of the R Smashbros AMA. I'm Ian Barker. With me has been Efren Salinas. We will see you next time.
Bye, guys.